Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. How are you, everyone? I hope you are in a good condition and health today. Please wait for a second. We will start the event in a few minutes. Please bear with me. Thank you. Okay. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. How are you today? I hope all of you in a good condition. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining our event today, Researcher and Research Student Enrichment Program, or usually we call it R2SEP. Before we start our agenda today, I will read out the important information to all attendants. First, please fill the attendance form on the provided link, which will be shared in the Zoom chat room by our committee. The link will be closed in 15 minutes. Second, please fill the feedback form, which will be shared in the Zoom chat room 15 minutes before the session ends, and it will be closed after 1 hour. Third, the attendance and feedbacks are compulsory for these purposes. Attendance is mandatory for the new ITS master and doctoral student. Certificate of participation is eligible who have at 100% attendance or 4 meetings during the whole semester. It is for STEM for it, which is eligible for ITS undergraduate students only. Participants who wish to ask questions during the Q&A session, please send your question at the provided link in the Zoom chat room, or alternatively, you may raise your hand during the Q&A session to ask your question directly to our speaker. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Welcome to the Researcher and Research Student Enrichment Program on today, Thursday, 22nd September 2022. I'm Dewi from ITS Postgraduate Office, and I will be your Master of Ceremony for this session. Before we start the session, please allow me to inform you on our agenda today. So the first agenda is the opening by MC, continued by the ITS hymn. So we can listen to the hymn of ITS, and then after that, the welcoming speech by the representative of Directorate of Postgraduate Program and Academic Development, then followed by the introduction of the moderator and the speaker. After that, we will get to the main agenda, the lecture session, then followed by the Q&A session, and it will be ended with the conclusion and closing. Okay. Let me see if the committee has ready for the ITS hymn. Thank you, everyone. Now, for the first agenda, I would like to invite Dr. Ardiono Priyadi, the Deputy of Postgraduate Program on Professional Education, as the representative of Director of Postgraduate Program on Academic Development of ITS, to give a welcome speech. Dr. Ardiono, the time is yours.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Dewi. Okay. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. So, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. To the Honorable Dr. Muhammad R2SEP from University Technology Malaysia. Nice to meet you actually. So for a long time actually. Actually, Dr. Hafiz is one of my friends when the same laboratory with me when I try to pursue my PhD degree in Japan at that time in Hiroshima University. Thank you, Mr. Hafiz ya.
Lama, sudah lama. Waalaikumsalam.
Oke. Baik-baik saja ya.
Alhamdulillah.
Salam buat keluarga.
Ya, sama juga.
Okay. So first of all, we would like to congratulate all of you as a part of the ITS postgraduate program family. Today we have a workshop called the Researcher and Research Student Enrichment Program, or all we call as R2SEP, that aim to improve the research skill and knowledge of the new student, of course, all of you. This program started in 2010 when Indonesia had a pandemic disaster and we all had a work at home. So therefore, we conduct the session online and it continues running up to now. This program consists of 4 sessions, and as a new student, it is compulsory to attend all these sessions. We had invited a speaker from abroad and also from Indonesian diaspora who live abroad. They are willing to share their experiences, knowledge, and skill to new students. We also have another program, the Academic Writing Center Workshop. Of course, this is free for you. You can join us with the Academic Writing Center. If you have problem about your writing or something, you can go to ABC or Academic Writing Center. There is one face-to-face on to one. So we also have a native from America. Okay, this one is I think is very good for you for you have that experience. So this RVC actually work which we will be held next week. Okay, start next week. The program aims to enhance the academic writing skill of the student. Okay, of course, all of you can new student and also as now for master degree on maybe PhD degree, then going to to get the publication. Of course, this one is not only journal but also seminar. So it is free. Okay, okay, it is free and available for all postgraduate students. Okay, please enjoy it. Okay, so I think next step is Mr. Hafiz. Thank you very much, Mr. for your time today to help us to share your experience and knowledge from you. Okay, enjoy this workshop and be free to ask a question to speaker. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Dr. Ardiono, for the welcoming speech. Okay, before we go on to the next agenda, I would like to remind you again that you need to fill the attendance form because it will be closed in, I think, 3 minutes. So please do so from now. And before moving to the next agenda, please allow me to elaborate about today's lecture. Today's lecture theme in RCEP is about expectation from being a postgraduate student and life strategy as a researcher. Delivered by our speaker, Dr. Muhammad Hafiz Habibuddin from University Technology Malaysia, and Dr. Dendi Satrio from ITS, who will be the one conducting our session today as our moderator. So let me introduce you to our moderator for today. Dr. Dendi Satrio is graduated from ITS for both doctoral degree in ocean energy engineering and management. He got a fast track program with PMDSU from Ministry of Education, Culture and Research and Higher Education. And he got his Bachelor of Applied Science in Energy Generation System from ITS. He is now a lecturer and also a researcher in Department of Ocean Engineering ITS. His research interest is energy conversion, ocean energy, and computational fluid dynamics. So without further ado, let's proceed to the main agenda. To Dr. Dendi Satrio as our moderator, the time is yours.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Dewi Sartika, for your kind introduction. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I would like to say thank you for our honorable speaker, Dr. Muhammad Hafiz Habibuddin from University Technology Malaysia. Secondly, thank you for all the participants that have joined this program. I would like to explain about our speaker today. Dr. Muhammad Hafiz is graduate from Electrical Engineering from Hiroshima University and also master degree from Electrical Engineering University Technology Malaysia and the bachelor degree from the Electrical Engineering from University Technology Malaysia also. Now, he is a senior lecturer and also a researcher in School of Electrical Engineering, Faculty of Engineering, University Technology Malaysia. And he has several research interests such as power system engineering, virtual power plant, and also microgrid power quality. And this afternoon, I'm Dendi Satrio as your moderator today at this program. I think this program is very helpful for students, especially for postgraduate students. So this afternoon, our agenda or our topic is about expectation from being a postgraduate student and life strategy as a researcher. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let's start our session. Please, our honorable speaker, the time and media are yours. Hello, Dr. Hafiz, are you ready?
Hold on, let me share my screen.
Okay, thank you.
Sound check. Testing 1, 2, 3. Assalamualaikum and a very good afternoon to all participants. Thank you, Dr. Dendi Satrio, for your very kind introduction. And also to Dr. Ardino Priyadi, long time we haven't met. It's almost more than 10 years already. And I would like to thank ITS, first of all, for inviting me to join this program. I might not have much to share with you, but I'll try my best and hopefully we can benefit from this session. Let's make this session less formal. It's kind of a relaxing session. You are welcome to raise a point, to ask question. Maybe the secretary would prefer that to be at the end of the session. All right. Well, the expectation from being a postgraduate student and life strategy as a researcher. So there's many ways to address this topic, but I would like to put it in the perspective of a supervisor, a former student. I would like to share you what is expected from the perspective of supervisor, from a former student. I want also to share with you things that I have done that works and things I've missed that I have should have done, and also some anecdotes and tips from friends and students as well. So, well, about me, I have been introduced by Dr. Dendi, so nothing much to add here. I've graduated from UTM and Hiroshima University. The link for my particulars in the university are given down there. You can have a look at the website later on. All right, so this is University Technology Indonesia. Well, this is the first time I viewed videos from ITS. I can say it is a very a nice and very beautiful campus. Hopefully, I can be there sometimes, not just virtually here.
Ada dananya grafik diagram.
So the University of Technology Malaysia is located at the southernmost part of the Peninsular Malaysia. I originally come from the up north there. It's about 700 kilometers. So I have received some guests from ITS actually, Dr. Roni Seto Wibowo. So I guess this is the time that I reciprocate the visit. A little bit online. I should have been there face to face, preferably. All right. So I would like to conduct this session in 4 parts. Okay. It is about the game that you are going to play, your team member, training that you need to undergo, and how do you play the game. It's like a football. It's just like a football. You need to know your rules, regulation, the stadium, your team members. Okay, your team members. This include your coach, your peers, your fans. What kind of training that you need to undergo, and then how do you perform, right? So let's start with your game. So in order to successfully win a game, you need to understand what this is all about. Okay, what is a PhD? How does it differ with undergraduate degrees? So since the degree is actually a research degree, so what is actually a research? And finally, why do a PhD? So it seems that from the slide, I used the term PhD, but this can be used interchangeably with any postgraduate degree. Master student, more or less, we are having the same experience, just a little bit different in terms of the duration and also the depth of the study. All right. So what is a PhD? So kalau menurut bahasa Melayu, PhD is an acronym of pelajaran habis di sini. What does it mean? It ends here. So this is actually the final or the highest level of academic qualification that you can achieve. Okay, generally it's called a doctoral degree. It can be Doctor of Philosophy, Doctor of Engineering, Doctor of Science, many other variations and according to university and programs. So in order for you to obtain the degree, you are required to independently produce an original research. Independently, it means that you're doing it on your own, without, it's not a teamwork. Okay, the work is on your own, but of course you are getting input from your teamwork. Okay, so it must expand the boundaries of knowledge in a very specific field. Okay, this is normally done in 3 years, sometimes more. And this work is not simply carried out from start to beginning and then it ends. It needs to be evaluated. It needs to be defended before a panel of other experts in the field. So as for the defense, it very much differs among universities. In general, this can be in terms of viva voce, where you need to have a oral presentation of your thesis. Some universities are using the written examination, meaning to say everything is evaluated from your written thesis and there's no oral presentation. But and also you can see that certain universities will evaluate it based on your acceptance, your published papers, okay, in the reputable journal. So you might be familiar with this if you have attended some introductory course to postgraduate study. So what is actually a PhD? Okay, you started by having a circle that encompasses all the knowledge that is with us, right? And then you have a blue dot is the knowledge that you acquire after you have finished your primary school. Then you continue the high school, you gain additional knowledge, but this knowledge is basically very general. Only after you complete your bachelor's degree, you are having a very specific specialty, as can be seen from a little Dan here. All right, basically your school, in your school you learn pretty much the same, but in the bachelor's degrees you learn something in the first years. It might be of a general requirement for that particular degree, but once before you graduate you will jump into certain specialization. For example, in the power system you might jump into power electronics or high voltage. In mechanical engineering you might be specializing in the heat transfer or turbo machinery, for example, or marine engineering, for example, right? Then you continue with your master's degrees, and this will further deepens your specialty. Okay, you're focusing on very specific, still the specific area of interest. You rarely jump into different field, and you obtain a master's degrees. Okay, but by researching more, you will come to the boundary of the human knowledge. Okay, the red area here. Okay, you study in detail, very specific, up to the point where there's nothing more to study. Finish. So in order to proceed, you need to create a new knowledge. You need to contribute something to the knowledge. As far as PhD is concerned, you normally say that you need to have three new contributions. So that contribution will give a dent in the boundary, as if you are pushing the boundary upwards, right? So that is actually the works that you are required to do in your PhD. You study everything that is related to your particular field, everything that you need to know, that they are there to know, and then top it up with your own contribution. It looks like it is a very, very, well, a big thing, but if you look back, your PhD is just a little dot there. right? As if you're doing nothing. But actually your contribution there, a little bit there, combined with the contribution from other researchers later on will make this knowledge circle bigger. All right. So that is basically what postgraduate or PhD study is all about. Okay. I think you all are comfortable with my speed, right? Now, well, I think what differentiate between the postgraduate study and the undergraduate study is very well. You can actually say that postgraduate study, you are given everything. Okay, the courses are very structured. First year, you need to take certain courses. Second year, certain courses up to the fourth year, or maybe third year. Maybe you are being trained to do some research. All right, but for PhD, everything must come from your own initiative. You decide what you need to study. All right. Now, once you are ready, once you understand what is PhD is all about, well, it generally means that structured research done in a university over 3 years. So what is a research? Okay, these days the term research are being used without limits. When we argue with friends, argue with family, husband argue with wife, whatsoever, we tend to use the word, I've done the research. I've done research. I want to buy this car. I've done the research. I want to study in this particular university. I've done the research. So that kind of research, is it similar to the one we are talking about? So that research might refers to a Google search. Things that you heard from your friend. Okay, but the actual research as defined in the PhD studies is a structured research. It follows certain path, certain criteria, certain mechanism. Okay, it can be a qualitative research, quantitative research, or mix of those, but basically it addresses a very specific problem. Okay, you can see here a topic selection is basically your area of interest. From that particular area of interest, you'll have to find a problem in that particular area that you want to solve, that is worth solving. Sometimes the problem are not feasible to be solved at the moment. So when doing your research later on, you need to be able to understand that to solve one particular problem, there are tools that are available, and there are tools that might not be able at the moment. So don't be too ambitious trying to solve a very advanced problem. If you can remember from the previous slide, it's just a little dent in the body of knowledge. Okay, you're going a little bit out here, not until somewhere outside, right? Okay, so that problem you want to solve. So now that you have identified the problem, so what are things that you need to do? Okay, things that you want to solve, your objective. You're having this kind of problem. I normally tell my student in very simple manner. Your problem is that you want to eat rice. Your objective is simply to go to a shop and buy a rice, something like that. Very, very simple explanation of that. Now, so in order to buy a rice, or perhaps to reduce the speed of certain process, all right, you need to know your limit, your scope. Okay, let's say you're trying to, I'm talking about buying a rice. You don't have to research on everything about buying rice. It's just something that is related to you. If you're staying in Surabaya, you might need to review certain restaurant. You don't have to review the restaurant somewhere in Bekasi, for example. Okay, focus. So your research will have a limit. I don't want to do this. I just want to do this part. All right, that is your limit. Now, how do we come to that process? It is by a literature review. Okay, a literature review. Well, you need to familiarize yourself with whatever knowledge that is required in that particular field, your theoretical framework, the conceptual framework, everything must be there, right? By doing the literature review, you will find your problem statement, your objective and the scope is very well defined. And when it is well defined, you can proceed with the methodology, how you're going to solve your problem. Step A, step B, step C. Step A will solve a certain problem. Step B, by doing certain algorithm, by mixing a certain chemicals, for example, by doing some derivation, for example, you'll have certain, you will solve a certain objective. So this, let's say you have 3 objectives, and generally you have 3 methodologies. Each methodology is to solve each objective. And then just perform your research. It can be experimental, it can be simulation, it can be, I'm not familiar with the social science tools, but gathering information from basically the targeted audience, the targeted samples, right? Those things, your data collection, okay? And then you process everything, discuss, then you conclude. Basically, that's it. All right, I'm sorry with my camera, something it doesn't seems to turn on. All right, okay. So that is your research. Hopefully, you are well aware of this thing. Normally, these research methodology courses will be provided by the universities, and also it is available these days online, right? So, why do a PhD? All right, I believe you are already in the program. You know your intention, but just let us track back and how do you say that? To correct our intention. Why do you actually want to do a PhD? Whether this is for you or not. Okay, the main idea is to accomplish your career goals, because not everyone are required to do a PhD. Generally, people understand that when you want to work in the academia or research institution, you need to have a PhD. All right, that is generally understood by everyone. All right, in order to advance your career in research institution, in the universities, you need to have a PhD. That is going to be your license. But not only that, if you're working in different environment, you might also need this kind of training as well. Let's say you're working in a government agency that promotes research, that provides funding to research, that coordinate research among universities, among companies. So in order for you to manage researchers, you must be able to have a research background. Yes, you might not be continuing that particular research, but you are familiar with the process. You know how researchers are thinking, what is required by researcher, the challenges required by the researcher. So that is also one of the reasons that you might want to pursue PhD. A little bit from a different, people generally associate PhD with working with universities and research institution. Perhaps in the companies producing a certain certain technologies, certain products. Okay, developing a product requires some sort of training, some sort of an element of research should be there. Okay, this is different from companies that merely produce things. So you're working with companies that trying to invent things, right? Invent can be in terms of product, it can be in terms of process, right? So that is to accomplish your career goal. The second part is your transferable skill, to gain transferable skill. So what does it mean by a transferable skill? So this is a skill that is acquired while doing PhD that is useful in different other field, different time, different scenario. For example, you are familiar with the data analysis aspect of doing PhD, right? You're dealing with a lot of data, and when working with under a different environment, for example, well, maybe not necessarily in a research institution, a company, for example, that deals with the customer data. Okay, what type of customers are there? What did they buy? And the preference of each customer, certain age group. If you have the data working in that particular company, you can contribute. You can utilize the knowledge from the knowledge that you acquire, from the skills that you acquired in your PhD program to further enhance your work process, for example, right? That would be data analysis. Another thing might also be your communication skills. So when doing your research, you're trying to convince people that certain methods is better than the other. You're trying to convince your funder to give money to develop certain technologies. You are discussing with your friends on what should be done, how to navigate things. So that communication skill is pretty much very useful in any working environment, not necessarily academic field, right? And of course, the next part is to exercise your passion for research. If you don't have passion for research, and then I should say that you just need to stop. Okay, you don't like football, why bother playing football? Go play basketball, perhaps. Okay, it's not saying football is better than basketball. What is your passion actually? If you are willing to do the research, you are very much interested in doing research, the environment, the peoples around you that is doing research, then this is your certainly the reasons that you need to do your PhD. Okay, and of course make an original contribution to your subject. If you are doing just a simple research in a different institution, different company, different working area, you might need some research skill, but not necessarily you're contributing something, right? But in terms of PhD, you're doing the research and trying to contribute to expand the knowledge, the boundary of the knowledge, right? So there are several good reasons to do PhD, to achieve something, basically your career, your passion, to improve your life and everything. But there are bad reasons to do postgraduate study, all right? Peer pressure. Your friend have a PhD, you need to have a PhD too. Fulfilling the ambition of others. Perhaps your father want you to become a PhD scholar, but you want to do something else, but somehow you do it. Horrible job condition. Okay, it seems that doing your current job is not good, and then you need to switch to doing PhD. It seems that PhD is more relaxed. I mean, each job has its own challenge. So make sure that you understand where you're going. You've done this kind of things. Well, not necessarily so. Every PhD journey differs from student to student, right? So sit back and check whether your intention to do PhD is a correct one or not. If you feel doubt, it does not necessarily PhD is not for you. Perhaps for some people, the motivation comes afterward. You see, once you jump into the PhD program, suddenly you find the interest. It's not to say that you need to have an interest first before going into PhD. Sometimes people jumping into the PhD program will find a lot of interesting things that they're very thankful of joining. So it's a good to have a reason, but it is also important for you to try to accommodate. I mean, wherever you're jumping into, just try to make sure that it can work for you, right? So that as the first part, knowing your game, okay? So let's continue to the next part, your team, okay? Your team, it can be a football team, okay? That is your university, your football team. Liverpool, Manchester, Arsenal. Your supervisor, that is your manager, basically. Your colleague, your team player. If you are a striker, then you have your defense with you, your goalkeeper. And finally, family and friends. Your friends, actually, that is not actually contributing directly to your game, but actually always behind you. All right, let's take a look at the university. So when you're playing for a certain team, you must be able to understand how people in that team works. All right. So as for the university, basically, you need to understand your academic regulation. Not so much, but certain things are should be learned along the way. Generally, you register for a PhD program, it must be a 3-year program. You might need to extend your study. If you need to extend the study, how does it work? Whether I have the requirement to enter that particular program. If you're switching from a different field, okay, you might need to undergo certain courses. For example, let's say you are trained in electronic system and you're trying to pursue postgraduate degree in a control system. While doing your undergraduate degree, you learn a little bit of everything, but a little bit more on communication system. But in order for you to pursue the control system in the control system field, you might need to add certain courses. So I think I jump into coursework here, right? So academic regulation, what else? As far as academic qualification is concerned, are you allowed to take a leave for one particular semester? Let's say you're having a financial problem, let's say you're having a family problem, health problem, whether you can take a rest for one semester, whether that particular semester is counted for the whole 3-year system. Okay, you need to be familiarized with that. And then your financial issues. In general, this is about your fees, right? But under normal circumstances, this is okay. But I'm trying to point out about the scholarship of funding. Okay, once you start your PhD, some people start the PhD program with the backing of a scholarship. Some others jump into the program first and then later on look for a particular scholarship. So this should be of your concern if you like to have a a particular funding or sponsorship. And also, scholarship normally covers up to certain years, and PhD journey is not always smooth. Sometimes you might need to extend 1 or 2 semesters, can be even 1 or 2 years, although rare cases. In those circumstances, your university might provide discounts, for example, or perhaps your sponsor might provide some help, a little bit of a reduced value. So you need to be aware of this. It can be a form of motivation in itself. Okay, I have money for 3 years. So by hook or by crook, I need to finish my study within 3 years. Otherwise, I'll have to fork out monies from other sources. So financial management on your side and financial availability and help from the universities as well as sponsor. Okay, that's financial. The third one is your coursework. Well, I have explained about the switching field, not about switching into a totally different field. It's just a different specialization. You might do some additional coursework. University also might offer some coursework on perhaps research methodology. Okay, it can be in terms of certain credit or in terms of certain seminar. Some university courses talking about the history of us, for example, foreign student undergoing a PhD program in Indonesia needs to have some language courses for 1 semester. Okay, local student might take a course on history, for example. So be aware of this coursework, okay, because this is going to be your graduation requirement. So on top of coursework, of course, you're doing your research, and some universities allow for earlier submission. You can submit if you can complete within 2.5 years. Some university won't allow if you submit within 2 years. It happens because some research, some students, if they are in a good situation, they can produce everything within 2 years, but sometimes the regulation doesn't allow for early submission. All right. Do you need to produce journal papers to be considered for graduation? Okay, it used to be like you just produce a thesis without paper or journal publication based solely on thesis in those days. But these days, producing a journal paper is a requirement. It can be 2 things here. First is the requirement of universities. You need to produce certain number of journals. And the second one is the requirement from your supervisor. Okay, but they normally agrees. I mean, sometimes your supervisor might ask for additional papers, even though if you have fulfilled the requirement from the university. Okay, there's no harm doing that, because after all, writing an additional paper is just it becomes easy for you if you have experience publishing previous papers. And then the evaluation or the examination, you need to be aware of the appraisal of every semester. Okay, you need to submit progress reports. Perhaps in a university, I believe that not so much on progress report, I believe, but as for the sponsor, okay, scholarship, you might need to have a progress report. And then whether you need to defend your proposal. Some universities require you to defend the proposal. Some will just evaluate you at the end of the program. Okay. And then finally on the facilities. So be aware of the facilities provided by the universities. I don't say that university should provide everything, but what is there provided by universities, you must be able to fully utilize that. What is not being provided by university, use your own creativity. Okay, maybe some subscription is not available. Okay, because of certain issues, perhaps you can find a different way of having that subscription. All right. Okay, that's your teammate number one, university. The second one is the supervisor. Okay, these are my previous supervisor. The one sitting in the middle is Professor Yorino. The one standing is the associate professor. On the left is the lecturer, and also on the right some external lecturer. Okay, the system in Japan is that in one particular lab you have everything, but here in Malaysia we have just one lecturer organizing everything. Maybe the same case in Indonesia as well. All right, so what do you need to know about your supervisor? Well, the most important thing is that I noticed that someone raised a hand. Secretary, can you please help with that? If not, I think I'll just continue. Supervision style. There are supervisors that once you register, you go to his room, you say, come, let me just show you your workstation. This is your desk, this is your chair, this is your computer. Do it. At the end of the third year, he comes and see you. Hey, what you have done? Where's your thesis? I'm not saying that there are those kind of lecturers, but there are lecturers who are laissez-faire. It means that he gives freedom for you to do everything with minimal supervision. And well, the problem with that is that if you're good in your research, then it's not a problem. If you need certain guidance, then it's going to be a very problematic situation. All right, there are lecturers who guide on everything. Okay, after you produce your literature review, try to write a paper, and then and then goes to this conference, and then let's go for discussion with certain company. We're receiving an invitation from external collaborators. Let's go have a discussion with them. I mean, those lecturers who provide this kind of thing. But might not necessarily be friendly to you. I mean, friendly in terms of interpersonal relationship. He doesn't care what you do with your family, but he provides everything that is required for your job. There are lecturers who are good on interpersonal level. He takes care of, I mean, he's interested whether your family is doing well or not, whether you have enough funding, for example, but don't actually contribute much in the research. And there are supervisors that is very good on personal level as well as on a professional level. Okay, so that is your supervision style. Basically, you are not at the freedom to choice. It's basically you jump into the system, you suddenly pick a certain supervisor. It should be okay for you. The onus is on you to adapt to different supervision style. But take note on the supervisors that give do a very minimum supervision. Okay, it's not to say that you need to switch supervisor. So if you are in that particular case, okay, the supervision from the supervisor is minimal. It should be from your own initiative to have more frequent discussion with your supervisor. So whatever the situation, you should do something to match different supervision style. Okay, the next part is whether your supervisor is busy. Does he has a lot of responsibility? Does he hold administrative posts? You know, those with administrative posts tend to have a lot of meeting, going outstation meeting. So there might be a limited time for you to discuss with them. So how do you work around that? Okay, perhaps you should be aware of his schedule. You know that in 2 weeks time, your supervisor will go for a certain conference. You should work fast enough and discuss fast enough before he goes to the conference. Because if you delay up until he come back from the conference, you might be stuck in the middle of your work, right? And while waiting for him to come back to ask for opinion, etc., you might become, I mean, your momentum is going down a little bit. It's all about momentum here. You want to make sure that it is always going smoothly. Okay, try to accommodate his schedule. How many students does he supervise? Too many students? How about undergraduate students? If he's supervising a lot of undergraduate students, you as a PhD student, for example, you have been trained to do research in master program. Might as well give some help to him by supervising his undergraduate student, all right, relieving all his burden. All right, this undergraduate student can be of your help as well to do some part of your research. Certain specific tasks might be to undergraduate students. All right, have give some help to your supervisor in supervising their undergraduate student. But sometimes this supervisor normally will assign undergraduate student to you as well. Okay, some might not, but there's no harm asking, right? Communication style, formal, casual, friendly or strict. Well, again, what you need to do is to adjust your expectation, adjust your action according to your supervisor's style. Okay, if your supervisor doesn't like small talk, okay, talking about what you have for breakfast today is not of his interest, then there's no use for you to talk about that, right? Those who are friendly, perhaps you need to have a lot more chat with him. I mean, the idea is to make yourself comfortable talking with your supervisor. All right. Next, it will be your age gap, social and cultural background. If you're young, your supervisor is maybe 50s, or perhaps you're around 30 years old, your supervisor is about the same age as well. This actually will contribute to how the supervision and communication is being done. So engagement must be tailored accordingly. Okay, perhaps if you are dealing with those from Western countries, you can talk to them by their first name. Okay, you don't have to call Dr. Dandy, for example. Just call him Dandy. But perhaps here in Asian countries, we pretty much are very concerned about the hierarchy or title or something. So even you need to be very careful with that, right? Someone from China might behave differently from someone from Japan. Okay, even in Indonesia, someone from Javanese descent might be different from your Bugis, right? So if your professor is a Bugis and you are perhaps banyak di Indonesia, Jawa, and then how do you have the different nuances in communication, right? So you are originally from maybe from Medan, but now you're pursuing your study in Surabaya. How people in Medan and Surabaya behave are kind of different. It's not that you are required to go into detail of that. Okay, you don't have to actually think. It comes naturally later on. All right. I have experience supervising a student who is about 10 years senior than me. All right. Initially, there was some sort of miscommunication. I myself was very young back then. I tend to treat him like a friend, right? But he somehow is in conflict because the supervisor is very young, trying to treat him like a friend, as opposed to his cultural background where it has a very clear distinction between a student and supervisor. Supervisor must be respected, put some sort of higher than the student. So somehow it reduced the effectiveness of the communication. Okay, he is expecting me as a supervisor to be all knowledgeable, and he as a student as if knows so little. So somehow you need to match your expectation of the supervisor as well as the student. But these things will settles once you move the, I mean, times will settle this. All right. So that's your supervisor, second team member. The next is your, I'll have to skip this, is basically the same. Your colleagues. You notice someone familiar here, Dr. Ariono here, and also Dr. Roni is also there, I suppose. All right, your colleague, your senior, you just joined the PhD program. There are about, there's a student who's about to graduate. So this guy knows the system, he has the experience, he knows how to deal with supervisor, he knows how to deal with, how to do the writing of the thesis. Okay, the trick has been mastered by this guy. So get to know the success story. Okay, learn from him. Okay, of course, in terms of that, as well as in terms of your field of study. There's also a senior student, but those who are taking time to graduate, okay, who's a little bit slow. Well, not to say that they are not good, because PhD journey is different from person to person. Some people might extend the study from 1 or 2 years due to various circumstances, health problem, perhaps a problem with the equipment, perhaps a problem with motivation. Okay, learn about this pitfall, things to avoid. I mean, you try to anticipate. I mean, this guy is having that particular particular problem. You in the future, if you're facing with that particular program, a particular problem, how do you deal with it differently so that you don't end up like him? Okay, and also, how can you be of help to that particular guy? Perhaps he is lacking in certain things, which might not be, he's lacking in certain things that impeding the progress of his study, but you somehow has expertise on that. So he's stuck very much because of one particular thing that can be helped by you. So do it, help him. Your peer who just joined with you together, all right? So you are on a similar path, so you should be working together, being helpful, being motivating each other, compete in a helpful, compete in the healthy environment. Okay, basically get to know your colleague, not only in the lab. Sometimes you might join for coffee, join for some social activities, right? Your support staff, administrative staff that deals with your payment of fees, perhaps a claim, a travel claim, some sort of additional benefits, financial benefits, paperwork. So support staff, you need to be able to communicate with them effectively. Technical staff dealing with equipment, certain office, right? scheduling of equipment. So you must be able to deal with the support staff as well. Okay, and finally, your team member, family and friends. Okay, whether you're single or married, whether you are living together or living long distance, so you need to be able to juggle everything. All right. It is normal for PhD students to leave family in one cities and pursue PhD in different cities. So if that is the case, okay, one advantage is that you have full time on your own during working hours. Okay, but at the end of the week, you need to be able to travel, right? Also, there's an advantage if you have your family with you together. So it means to say that you don't have to worry about the condition of family. Everything is under your eyesight, no problem with that. So basically, I'm talking about attention and support that you need to give to your family and friends accordingly. If you're living a long distance, so how do you handle that kind of situation? There must be some sort of agreement, some routine and expectation. Okay, by routine, I mean, for example, if you're living in different cities, for example, the routine is that every week you must go back to your family. So things are that are expected, but you also must be very flexible. Sometimes you might need to have you might need to work extra hours that prevents you from going back to your family. Even if you're living in the same city, sometimes you might need to work until midnight. So communicate effectively with your families. So plan your activities, perhaps well, according to your plan your family activities according to your lab activities. Try to complement. For example, if you're going to conference in different city, so that might be a chance for vacation for the whole family. All right. So do not make this journey as solely yours. You're doing PhD. I don't want family to bother me. So it must be a journey together. You're doing your PhD at the same time, giving support to your family. They are happy. They are praying for you. Okay, everyone works together. All right. What's the point of going to a football final without your fans? Right. All right. So that ends the first part. I guess I need to move a little bit faster. Your training, your field of study, your professional communication, publication, and conference. I think this is the one that is quite important. The final part is just some anecdotes, some tips. All right, your training, your field of study, your research. You must have a clear view of what you're doing, bird's eye view, overall view of what you're doing. Okay, you don't want to just focus on your things without knowing something related to that. Okay, master the literature. Okay, you must be able to identify the trends and direction so that your work is aligned to the current trend and direction. Okay, some works has been put in place, I mean, in cold storage for a long time because it seems there's no advancement in that particular field. Okay, but not necessarily so, because if you can find something that is, well, even it is long being stopped, that particular area long being stopped, it might be due to difficulties on getting a new push. If you somehow can provide that push to restart that particular area, then by all means proceed with that. Researchers and authorities in that particular field get to know other researchers in different university and also those working in the same area and those who are having authorities on that particular field. If you're working with in the area of perhaps voltage stability, what are the researchers that is who are prominent in that particular field? So follow his article, follow his student. Okay, check all those papers citing him. All right. Then keeping track on changes. So things that you might, things that you plan initially might change in the middle of your PhD journey. Okay, you plan on certain things, then after 1 year, some other researcher produce similar results. So you might need to adjust your research or your experiment, for example, your method, okay? And then go for research methodology courses. Then professional communication, you need to establish a researcher profile, your Google Scholar, your ResearchGate ID, your ORCID ID. So basically, this is some sort of your Facebook or your Instagram of your research. All right. So create this ID. This is the way that you can communicate with various other researcher. Okay, you can, I mean, one of the advantage of having this ResearchGate or thing is that you can bypass a subscription of certain journals. You can directly contact that particular person asking for the copy of the journal paper. All right, because what you give to the publisher is basically the right to publish, but the right of the paper, the content still remains with you, right? So, but the problem sometimes is that if those researchers stop after completing his PhD, then trying to contact him won't, you won't get a fast response, right? Professional contact, your business card, email signature, time to be professional. When you were undergraduate student, perhaps your email address is having a certain fancy names and everything, right? Try to switch to your a more professionally sound with your full name, for example, if you're using Gmail or Hotmail or whatever, and perhaps you need to use your institutional email. Join professional society, IEEE, IET, and then Persatuan Mahasiswa and whatsoever. Okay, this provides you with contact and it enables you to pick up various opportunities. IEEE, for example, might provide a student travel grant for one particular conference. Okay, if you are a member of that particular society, you'll have that advantage. Okay. What else? Perhaps a free subscription to a certain journal. I know that some subscription are very, I mean, membership of this society might be expensive, but there are provisions for those for students. Okay. And in fact, we know the exchange rate is quite high these days. I would suggest some creative way of getting membership in order to get the full advantage of each society. And then develop your language skill. It can be verbal, it can be written, a presentation skill, how to write a proposal, how to write a papers, how to present papers. How do you develop this? Universities might provide certain courses. The internet will have a lot of examples, right? These days, different universities might also organize a course on writing a paper, open for everyone. So join that kind of course. Okay, so language can be developed by read, write, and speak. So if you have the chance to read, read. If you have the chance to speak, speak. If you have the chance to present, present. Present not only in conference, presenting in a meeting as well. So if you have a meeting with a supervisor, try to, if you want to improve your English, for example, then by all means, present in English, right? Then publication. One of the key performance indicator of your PhD progress is that you must be able to publish. So publish in a reputable journal that is indexed by OSINT or Scopus. it must have a good ranking, a good impact factor, and a good quartile. Now, this is well, when you initially go into writing paper, of course, the quality of your paper and quality of your language is not as good as expected from reputable journal. So you start with a less demanding journal, perhaps national journal, university journal, okay? And then once you have acquired the skills for proper journal writing, you can, and also by that time, your result has become more solid, you can send them to the reputable journal. Okay, you need to consider free or paid subscription, free or paid journal service. Okay, subscription versus open access. Frequency of publication, this is important because we don't want your draft to be, I mean, your publication is taking too much time. Okay, local and international journal. So there are certain items that can be catered by the local journal. Some item can be accumulated by international journal. Okay, simple results might be suited for university journal, for example. Right, you don't need to wait until your result is pretty much solid before you submit that to reputable journal. Some basic result can be published in local journal, for example. The idea is that you need to show that you are the one doing that. You are the first doing that. Because at the end of the program, after 3 years, many things can happen. Other researchers might produce the same result as yours, similar results. So by publishing, it gives you timestamp that I have been doing this since the beginning, right? So attend a course on how to write a journal papers. Writing a journal is a kind of very structured. It's not like writing a novel, writing a letter, because you will follow a very specific guidelines, okay, specific format. The language is very simple. You don't use decorative language. It's very simple and straightforward. But somehow you need to attend those courses, again provided by universities, provided by many training institutions. And then also how to respond to reviewers. So when you submit your manuscript, there will be feedback from reviewers that serves two functions. The first is for you to, I mean, of course, to respond. Okay. The other is to generate new ideas for you for the next objective or the next problem, right? And be aware of predatory and bogus journal, right? This journal sounds like a legitimate journal, but they're actually trying to fool you into publishing, normally with certain amount of fees, right? Publication, conference. Okay, attend a conference, local and international. Each will have their own advantage. Local conference to get to know your local researchers. International conference, you might be able to socialize with different from different nationalities. Take note on the fees and the funding. Early bird registration is going to be more less expensive. Whether there are provisions for discounted price if you are a member of certain society, or whether you can look for travel grants from certain institution. So be aware of that. Socialize with all the researchers. Okay, do not go to the conference and present and then you go to, I mean, walk around in the cities, right? Sit together with the prominent researcher, connect with them. Okay, let's say you have for dinner or coffee break, for example, introduce yourself. Hello, Professor A. I am blah blah from certain university. I'm doing this research. This is my paper. You can have a look at my paper. Okay, especially if that prominent researcher is doing research in the same field as yours. All right. Not it is to make yourself visible to those researchers. So this prominent researcher will have a lot of contact. All right. So he later on might introduce you to his friend or some other institution doing a certain research topic. All right. So he might be able to contribute or recommend something on your work, right? So once you have developed that connection, this can be further continued throughout your career. All right. Look for potential collaboration and, of course, keeping in touch. This is very important. Most of the time, people meet at a conference, and then that's it. They go home. Okay. Once you go home, you need to contact those researchers. It can be a social, casual contact, wishing New Year, for example. But more importantly is that if you achieve something, I have produced, if you manage to publish certain journal paper, give the copy of that paper to that particular researcher, for example. All right. So the thing is that to make yourself visible to the prominent researcher so that you can go into his circle, because you want to work in that particular area, right? With all the expert in that particular area. Okay, that is all for
Kenapa Mbak
conference.
Tia?
Okay,
Huh?
and others.
Iya,
Well, discussion with
Zoom. Zoom kenapa?
Sorry about that. I
no
think I need
problem.
to mute.
It happens. we are familiar with that for about 2 years. It always happens, no matter how many times you remind them. It's okay. All right. Discussion. This is your communication skill. Attending a meeting, with your supervisor, meeting with joining your supervisor to go for a certain meeting, go for training and workshop, training on writing a journal paper, for example, workshop on how to use a particular software or how to use a particular equipment, professional certification. Okay, sometimes you might join, depending if your project have some budget for professional certification, you can be sent to, for example, a course on a photovoltaic system. All right. And then also get in touch with the project management. Normally, if this is a well-funded project, okay, so learn on how to manage a project. All right. And lastly, how do you play? All right, those are the training that you have. So how do you effectively play? Become a good striker, for example, become a good midfielder. In doing your research, keep reading, doing, compare, improvise, and keep repeating that. Continuous improvement. You need to lead your project. Do not expect your supervisor to dictate everything to you. It is, after all, your research. Your supervisor is just there to supervise, to make sure that you are on the right track. The track is yours to begin with. Prepare a research notebook, your papers collection, and everything must be organized. Okay. Research materials and facilities, be aware of that. Be aware of whatever you have and whatever equipment that you don't have, for example. Maybe certain equipment are not there at your institution, but available at other institutions. So when you plan your work, you should plan on when to use that particular equipment as well. If you're going to different cities, suddenly that equipment is scheduled to be used by someone else. So communication must be there. Supporting tools, your software, your library subscription and everything. There's a very many creative way to overcome the limitation here. Okay, you don't have to subscribe everything on your own. Perhaps you subscribe one journal, your friend will subscribe a different journal. Okay, record your meeting and your deliverables. Okay, let's say you're meeting with your supervisor asks for certain things, make sure you record that and deliver that. Next meeting, update on that progress. Do not just let it just slip away, right? Backup. Okay, this is very important. We don't want your research data to be suddenly gone. It used to be very difficult. You have your USB drive, but these days everything can be backed up online. So make sure you have multiple backup. Okay, it happens, but normally supervisor won't entertain this. Somehow, if you screwed up, do it again. All right. So don't lose your direction and focus. A regular discussion with your supervisor, even if you don't have anything to show, if you're stuck somewhere, consult your supervisor, follow his advice. Okay. Time management is very important. Treat it as a full work job. Okay. Don't come at 11 and go back at 4. Come during office hour. You might need to work extra, might need to extend your work, but of course not regularly. In certain time, you might need to what you call lembur. Be aware of your supervisor's schedule, the meeting schedule, so that you can slot in whenever you are, whenever required. Okay, I have elaborate about this later. Keep a milestone. Okay, put out a milestone on your project and make sure that you meet the milestone every semester. Okay, take note on the conference date, professional meeting or workshop. Okay, you don't want to miss those things, right? And also national holiday, family event. Take note on those because you don't want to be focusing on your job as well, up to the point that you miss your holiday. I myself have an experience on this because I was in Japan. I was not aware of a national day in Japan. So I ride a bicycle under snow condition, going to the university, ended up that university is closed. It was very cold because I'm not aware of that particular public holiday. Okay. And also I missed family time due to that, right? Professionalism, basically your discipline, your time frame, punctuality. If you promise to deliver something on certain time, make sure you deliver. Academic honesty, no plagiarism, do not forge data. Okay, do not submit your journal to multiple publisher. I mean your paper to multiple journal. Okay, you must be honest. Your data must not be doctored. Communicate well. If you need help, I'm talking about help with your research. Tell that to your supervisor. If you need time and extension, if your supervisor asks you to do certain things, cannot be done at the moment. Okay, ask for extension. Okay, you might need a break as well. Okay, take a break 1 or 2 days, for example. In certain cases, it might be 1 week. Okay, notify sickness. Okay, if you're not able to come to the lab today, okay, do not just go missing in action. Okay, respond to email. Okay, that's professionalism. You know what to do, basically. I'm just trying to remind you here. And there are personal challenges as well. Addiction. Okay, while doing this is a very stressful environment if you cannot manage it well. So addiction to drugs and alcohol are there. I believe not so much on drugs and alcohol these days here in Indonesia. Perhaps smoking, okay? You smoke too much, stressful. And then family, juggling commitments. Sometimes you miss your daughter's birthday, your wife's birthday, anniversary. I mean, try to schedule, put on a reminder and everything. Take care of your health, eat a balanced diet, have a sufficient rest. Okay, if you are planning to stay up to midnight, okay, in your lab, bring some things to eat. All right, perhaps in your lab you have some refrigerator. I'm not sure. Take care of mental health. If you're stressful, any sign of mental health, get help, get support. Supervisory issues, perhaps, well, this must be treated carefully. If you are having some problem with supervisor, the way it doesn't work out for you, perhaps you should get some advice from maybe from the office for friends. In rare cases that you might need to switch your supervisor, it is well, it's possible, but sometimes the supervisor is not that I mean, if you are having a problem, you tell that to the office might notify the supervisor, try to be an intermediary to resolve the conflict. Okay, so after all, we are human, we are prone to do some mistake and errors. What is important is we sit together and try to resolve our difference. Okay, you might be facing a certain emergency situation, health and family. Okay, things are to be expected actually. Well, family also, your distant relatives, if you're staying in the same cities, it might be, I mean, it's very, very difficult to get away from certain family events, right? But if you're studying in a different city, then it is a good excuse to skip family event due to distance. But if you're staying in the same cities, perhaps do not try to avoid family event at all. I mean, you're living in the same cities. Just be there for a few hours, 1-2 hours, to show that you're entertaining them, and then get back to your work. Right? So any problem that you are having, there will always be a support channel, either from the university, from friends, from whatever around you. Okay, talk about your problem. Right? So finally, this is my final slide. Remember, this is a marathon, not a sprint, meaning to say that you must be consistent. You do not push yourself too hard at the expense of being too exhausted towards the final years. Be very flexible. Okay, I mentioned that you need to plan everything, right? But do not allow that plan to haunt you, that you really need to follow the plan. Sometimes the plan needs to be adjusted. Okay, take note on what works for you and what works for others. Sometimes your friend's advice might work for him, but not you. But you should be able to, I mean, consider any advice and try to suit to your condition. Take a break. Okay, take a break. Kalau, I mean, if you are stuck, take a rest. Go to fishing, watch a movie, whatever. Go back to your hometown. Go to see your parents. Ask them to pray for you. Right? All knowledge belongs to God. Right? So it is His in the first place. If you ask for help, you ask from Him, you will get it. Right? So I guess These are the things that I can share with you. Hopefully it is beneficial for you as well as others. And with that, I thank you, giving this session back to Dr. Dendi. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Hafiz, for your excellent presentation, and I think it's very nice explanation. Ladies and gentlemen, now we enter the Q&A session. Actually, we have several questions. However, I will remind the participant who want to discuss or asking a question. Please give your question via chat box or online form. Or maybe you want to raise hand to ask directly to our speaker. Okay,
We have one.
we have one who want to ask you directly, Dr. Hafiz. Yes, please turn on your mic. Franciscus, could you please to turn on your mic?
Hello, good afternoon, everybody. First, I would like to say sorry because I turned off my camera.
No problem.
Yeah, due to my internet connectivity. First, I would like to thank you for your explanation, Mr. Hafiz Habibuddin. Me, Francisco Sony, would like to ask you regarding research. What if we have researchers and you have explained before that you may ask your professor, but in fact, in real life, we may tell our research to our professor or another professor, because one professor has a point of view and another professor also has a different point of view. So sometimes when we tell to many professors, make us confused for our researchers. So which one do you prefer? If you do you prefer to we only focus by telling our research to one professor only, or we may telling our research to many professor? That's all from my question. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me rephrase your question. Basically, you are getting different feedbacks from different professor, right?
Yeah.
Different lecturers. Your co-supervisor, some other lecturers. Okay. The thing is that every professor will have their own opinion, which you yourself need to be able to analyze whether this input has some merits or not. This input well have a lot of merit A. Your supervisor give something that you think is just at the level of B or something. All right. So the best idea is, first of all, follow your supervisor. Okay. His idea might not be the best. If that idea is workable, then do it. Okay, you are trying to maintain a good rapport with your supervisor. Then input from other professors can be incorporated as well. It doesn't mean that if you're doing one thing, the other thing you need to leave out. All right, try to accommodate. Perhaps the input from the other lecturer cannot be used at the moment because you need to focus on your supervisor's idea. Okay, put it aside or put it in a small form in that particular, let's say you're trying to write a journal paper. Okay, provide everything that your supervisor asks. Input from other supervisor, just mention a bit. Later on, perhaps then your supervisor might be agreeable to, I mean, it's just a matter of time. Sometimes the idea seems the supervisor is not accepting the idea at the moment. as the times go on, as you try to produce different result, it will your supervisor will, of course, will be agreeable to that. Okay, the best is try all. I mean, get all the inputs, try to implement everything, and discuss everything with your supervisor. Okay, yeah, I hope that answer your question.
Yeah, you mean that we have to focus on our main supervisor.
Yes.
But instead we also need to collect any information from another professor.
Yes.
To fulfill
slowly incorporating into that. Slowly,
Oh.
I mean, up to your own creativity.
Yeah. Okay.
Put it on hold or just a little idea.
Okay. Okay, Mr. Hafiz. Thank you.
Welcome.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Franciscus, for your nice question. I think we have another question from Mr. Dimas. Could you please turn on your mic?
Yes. First of all, I'm sorry if I turn off the camera. So
your black and white picture looks good.
thank you. Good afternoon, everyone, and good afternoon, Mr. Hafiz. My question is for the research roadmap that you show. I would like to ask the step to do a research. First of all, step one is topic selection, but the third one is a research question. And my question is, would it be better if we do or we think about the question first? If you think the question first, it will be you will draw the main idea of the research. Or am I misunderstanding?
Okay.
Yeah,
so
thank you.
What you normally read in a thesis is that you read some introduction, you read a problem statement followed by objective, and then a scope, and then followed by literature review, as if they are very separate. Right? Of course, in the presentation of a thesis, it follows that way, but actually the problem statement, the introduction, scope, everything actually comes from the literature review. Right? So it must, I couldn't say that you need to follow that step one by one. It's basically the whole process together. It is just being presented in a certain way. So sometimes you have some idea what you want to solve certain problem, then you read your literature, you find out that particular problem is a little, it can be a little bit changed, or your methodology might you might propose one methodology, but once you read your literature, you might want to change your methodology. So the idea is that while you are reading the literature, you will come back and improve your problem statement, your objective and methodology, those kind of things, right?
Okay, but the question is not the step one, but if we questioning something and we read the literature, that's the first step to do the research, right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Dimas. Dr. Hafiz, we have another question. I will read it. This is from Mr. Doni Rubia Gatra. Is that possible, being in full-time remote job and doing a PhD?
Okay, it depends on the nature of your job, the nature of the research, and communication availability. It used to be impossible in those days, right? But since the pandemic, everything it can be done online. So you have the problem of communication already solved. Okay, you can schedule a meeting with your supervisor every week through Skype, through Zoom. Okay, that's one issue. The second one is the nature of your research. Whether the research is being conducted at your place, you're having all the facilities there, or perhaps it's just a simulation based, you just rely on one particular computer, you have access to the data. If that is possible, then you can do it. Another issue is that you're doing your full-time job. So your full-time job, the nature of the job, does it allow some time for you, enough time for you to concentrate on your research? So the issue is that whether you're doing your PhD full-time or part-time. So these are to be considered. So in general, I can say it is possible, but limited to certain field or certain area, certain project. Okay?
I agree with you because we need to focus on our PhD.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, thank you. This is the other question from Mr. Widodo. As we know, vocational degree is very different from academic education. How is PhD research suitable for vocational education? I think this is such as polytechnic or applied science, maybe.
Well, it is a different path actually. Vocational education normally trains you for a very specific specialization on skills, sort of. But depending on the area that you're working with, if you're just at the degree level, there might be a chance for you to switch to master level, at the master level, and then proceed to PhD. But you have to be sure of the requirement in Indonesia, for example. I'm giving you example in Malaysia. We have Bachelor of Engineering and Bachelor of Technology. Bachelor of Engineering is basically an academic degree. Bachelor of Technology is some sort of tailored more towards the vocational training. So if you want to pursue a master degree, having a technology bachelor, let me rephrase it. You have a Bachelor of Technology degree and want to pursue Master of Engineering. Okay, some universities doesn't allow that. Some universities requires you to do some courses, to top up your courses to fill up certain requirements. So check with the requirement of the university as well as the governing body. For example, your Ministry of Education or Ministry of Manpower, some sort of. Yeah, that would be my answer.
Okay, thank you. And this is the next question. As postgraduate student, we must read papers as much as possible. How many papers we must read? Is there any difference between master or as doctoral student, maybe? Maybe you can suggest a number.
Well, I would say 50 for master and 100 and more for PhD. That is the rule of thumb, but it depends on what you are researching. Certain area will have a lot of literature, right? Certain area will have a limited literature, but sometimes the papers that you are referring are basically similar, right? You have 10 sort of similar paper. You have 1 or 2 journals, the rest are conference papers. So you can read that, but as far as the thesis requirement, you can just refer to the prominent papers. Okay, you can just skip the conference paper. Basically, conference paper sometimes it gives you the idea of what people are doing, but the details sometimes are not there. The discussions are not complete, but you need to read that as well to know what people are doing basically, but to understand on how people are doing things, how the technology changes, or how certain methodology is being adopted. The focus is on the journal paper.
Thank you for the answer. And we have another participant who want to ask directly. Ms. Imaniar Fitri, you can unmute yourself.
Okay, thank you for the
It's not your
for
face.
your time.
Why must you hide the eyes?
It's a default from the picture.
I
Okay. My question is, in your opinion, is it possible to use a paper collection method to compose a thesis for a master's coursework student? Because I believe this procedure ensures that we can finish the thesis without doubling our effort, since our requirement in ITS, we need to publish one paper to graduate. And I think nowadays a student's attention is more likely to be drawn to their thesis than any other academic requirements, such as publishing paper. So indeed, if the student has an academic aim in their future, it can be very beneficial to upgrade their profile. Thank you.
So let me rephrase your question. You mean to say that by publishing a paper, and that paper is being used to be compiled in a thesis?
Yeah, like a paper collection method for composing a thesis for master's coursework student, not for master research student.
Okay, my answer on that will be to be based on the university policy. Okay, get back to the know our game, the university, right? So academic regulation requires a certain way of writing a thesis, so that must be followed. So if the university requires a thesis, a compilation of a journal would not meet the requirement. The other things that is different is that a journal normally skips literature review. So literature that you find in the journal is very much related to the work being done, whereas literatures in the thesis normally introduce you the area, what people are in different areas are doing. So the difference is basically on the literature review. As for the result, I think you pretty much can compile your paper into a thesis, provided that you have an extensive literature review added. Okay, simply compile and then add your literature review. Okay, that's one thing. The second thing is that when you write the paper, you normally focus on a very specific data set or specific results. Some other variation are being skipped, let's say I'm testing my method on system A, comprehensively discussed. And then I also tested on system B. In the journal, you normally say that it also works on system B. Okay, very simple. So whereas in your thesis, you normally you can further elaborate your results too. It works on system A and a very comprehensive. It also works on system B. A little bit of extension. Now, there you got my point, right? So compilation according to university regulation, and then the difference is that you add the literature review, you add additional results. One more tips Right? It is very easy for you to write everything and then you delete. Okay? So if you have idea, you put everything in your thesis, later on you delete, skip this. This is not necessary. Delete, cross. But if your thesis is too thin, it's going to be very difficult to generate idea to be added into the thesis. So one advice is to start writing early. Later on, you remove that, it's okay, easy.
Okay, Mr. I don't know, forget the name. Thank you for your explanation. It is highly instructive for my future thesis writing. Have a blessed day.
Thank you.
Okay, very interesting discussion. But however, we are very sorry that we have limited time. I think this is the last question from the online form. Some people said that doing a PhD is very lonely journey. Do you agree, Dr. Hafiz?
Well, lonely journey, you are talking about the things that you do. It is on your own. Right? Let's say you pick some topic. You are the only one doing that topic. Your lab mate is doing different topic. So lonely in that particular aspect to me. But you have your colleagues. You can eat lunch together. You can go have a coffee together. I mean, your supervisors might organize some party for you, right? All the lecturers are having a meeting. I don't know in Indonesia whether you have provide refreshment for meetings, right? So the students normally finish all the refreshments. It is up to you to make your journey lively, right? You meet a lot of people from different countries, not necessarily so in Indonesia, a large country, you can have someone from Sumatera Utara, you can have someone from Papua, from Sulawesi. I mean, it is a mixture of various people. Something fun can come out of that.
Thank you, Dr. Hafiz. Ladies and gentlemen, finally we reached at the end of the Q&A session. Maybe Dr. Hafiz, you have any closing statement for our students?
Okay, first of all, I would like to thank ITS for giving me the opportunities, and I wish all students in ITS pursuing your postgraduate studies a successful journey, and I hope we can see again sometimes in the future, if not in professional setting, perhaps leisure. I also invite you to come to UTM. We have some sort of cooperation between UTM ITS. Some sort of academic exchange can be arranged. And in fact, a flight from Surabaya to Johor Bahru is a direct flight, it's just 2.5 hours. Okay, so I'm inviting you to come here as well. In the same way, I need to go there as well. All right, so try. You please your God and please your friends and families. Hopefully the journey will be a smooth sailing. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Hafiz. And thank you for the committee and the students that have been joined this program. So I return it back to the MC, Bu Dewi Sertika. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Muhammad Hafiz Habibuddin, for the inspiring lecture today. And thank you, Dr. Dendi Satrio, for conducting this amazing session. Please give applause for our inspiring speaker and amazing moderator by using the Zoom action feature for today's empowering session. Now, as a token of appreciation, I would like to present a certificate for our honorable speaker and also moderator.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your availability today. It was a very nice session. Next, for the next certificate, will be presented for Dr. Dendi Satrio for being our moderator today. Thank you very much for your availability today in providing as a moderator.
Thank you.
Thank you. And then now, before we part, I would like to inform you that we have still future agendas on RTSEP which will be conducted on 6th of October 2022. There are some changes, I think, in terms of just stay tuned to our email related to the schedule, because it will be on the 6th or on 3rd of November, which will begin at 7 p.m. because of the availability of the speaker. Now, next, I think we will have event. I hope that you already apply for this event and register to this event, because this is another event for postgraduate day with Academic Writing Center of ITF. Okay. Before we end today's session, we would like to invite all participants along with the speaker and also moderator to take a group photo. Please open your camera. Okay. If you would like to be featured in our photo session. Okay. I will be, my friend can help me to take a picture. So we have like around 12 pages here. So it will take like a while. So smile for 5 minutes and we'll be
nice
okay.
specification.
Okay. Okay, I will make a countdown. Okay. 1, 2, 3, smile. Next one. Second. Okay, second page. 1, 2, 3, smile. You need to smile, guys. Next one. Okay, I'll see Novan Dwi Cahyono and also Bapak Priyo Adi Wibowo. So smile. 1, 2, 3. Thank you. Next one. Okay, this is like complete. 1, 2, 3. Smile. Okay, our fifth one. 1, 2, 3. Smile. Okay. 6. Nice. 1, 2, 3. Smile. Okay, I think the 7 is no longer open their camera, so we have to skip it. Sorry. Okay. Okay, now that we have finished our group photo, I would like to remind all participants to fill the feedback form provided in the Zoom chat room. And then the participant who will get stamp for it is the participant who comes on time during this event until the end, and also fill the feedback forms. Finally, we have reached the end of today's session, and we sincerely apologize for any inconvenience during the session from me as the Master of Ceremony and from the committee as well. We will see you again in the upcoming session. Once again, thank you everyone for joining the session. Thank you the speaker and the moderator for the inspiring session. Good evening, stay safe and healthy. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Ram.
you, Dr.
Thank
Hafiz.
you.
Thank you,
Thank
Dr.
you.
Dendi.
Hafiz.
Thank you, all the participants.
Now.
See you soon. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.